Snautra aure mazda Hashem vahu vahishtem asti ushtaste Ushtahamaya tashai vahishtai Hashem Baname ahura mazda. To think a good thought, to speak a good word, to do a good deed is righteousness. Happiness comes to those who live with the consciousness of righteousness. And with that sentiment, ladies and gentlemen, this is Meher Amal Saad and welcome to BaHumata, a program designed to build oneness with the consciousness of righteousness in humanity. The goal is not to grow the plant but to plant the seed for each one of us to blossom with our own love, light, grace, joy, and peace. So sit back, relax, and get ready for this very special journey to enlightenment. And as you do, please join me in giving a warm Zartushti welcome to our very own Zartushti neuroscientist from United Kingdom, Dr. Karishma Koka.
Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you to all our speakers for being here. BaHumata is a program that's dedicated to Osho Zarathustra for all his messages that seem to apply timelessly to every part of life through the times. One of the most important principles of Zarathustra's messages is fellowship and cooperation to bring advancement. And our speakers today will be focusing on that. But let me now introduce you to the principles of this program. BaHumata means with good thoughts. It is aimed to conserve and share the knowledge and the prayers, the principles, and the practice of the Zarathushti Daina. Daina means both conscience and the faith. Most importantly, it is to honor our priests and knowledgeable elders for all the teaching that they have given and are giving with so much patience and dedication. It is also to bridge the communication between the elders and the youth so that with good thoughts, we can together grow this fellowship towards world peace, happiness, and the prosperity of all. My gratitude to my grandfather, Ervad Noshirvanji Pestanji Pantaki, and great-grandfather, Ervad Sahib Pestanji Noshirvanji Pantaki, my guiding light, Mobed Meherban Firuzgari, and our guiding friend, the late Mobed Soli P. Dastur. Gratitude to my dear mentor and facilitator, Mr. Meher Amal Saad, for support to Mr. Noshir Dadrawala, and for the support and technology to Mr. Yazdi Tantra, for inspiration to Mr. Rohinton Munshi, and gratitude to the Zoroastrian Trust Funds of Europe for giving me the environment in which these feelings have grown to this extent, including Mr. Malcolm Debu, Mr. Rusi Dalal, our Mobeds, Ervad Bhada, Madan, Unwala, Writer, Bedwar, and Vajifdar, for encouragement to Mr. Darius Potel and the family of Dr. Feroz and Mrs. Kerman Munshi, and gratitude to all the Ashavans around the world through time and their Fravashis, and also to my parents and the parents of all those with us today. Our team has grown over the time, and the foundation, thank you very much, Baba Meher and Mr. Yazdi Tatra and all our supporters. We welcome our young fellowship ambassadors and our newest ambassador, Dinas, as well. The concept of cooperation and fellowship, it's not strange that it's in at least 3 of our basic prayers, the Yenge Hatam, the A Airyama Ishyo, and of course, through the Yathahu Vairyo prayer. Our speakers for the day are Dasturji Sahib Dr. Kersey Antia, Ervad Ardavan Solan, Tanya Hoshi, and Jehangir Sarosh The flow for the day is the concepts and prayers from the Zartoshti Daina. So we request our speakers to focus on them, some words, some thoughts. That's the BaHumata. The actual lines from the prayers with their meanings or words from the prayers, so Bhukta, and then the speaker's own interpretation, Varshta, through their action. We will then take questions related to the talk specifically, addressed to specific speakers, and then we will have Bahumana sharing. For that, please raise your hands so that we can find you, and Yazdi Tatra can then help you to unmute. These talks related to good thoughts, prayers with good action, propagating fellowship, world peace, happiness, and prosperity for all are facilitated by our kind Mr. Meher Amalsad, who puts the speakers together and writes the biographies. Our first speaker today is Dasturji Sahib Kersey Antia. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with immense pride, gratitude, and appreciation that I would like to introduce this world-renowned Zartoshti priest who was honored in 2000 as the outstanding religious personalities and scholars of the 20th century. So he's among the 2000 greatest people of this century. Dasturji Kersey Antia is the high priest of the Zoroastrian community in Chicago since 1977 and has served as an honorary priest for over 70 years. He is a fully ordained priest with the Best Boy Medal and the Prefect Medal from the M.F. Kama Athornan Institute in Mumbai. He attended the M.F. Kama Athornan Institute for 9 years, where he received an award of excellence and became an ordained priest at the age of 13. At this institute, Dasturji Kersey Antia, Ervad Mobe Dr. Soli Dastur, and our Vada Dasturji Dr. Firoz Kotwal were highly regarded and well known as three buddies. Dasturji Dr. Antia studied religion and Avastha Pelvi under Dasturji Sahib Babu, Mirza, and other learned priests. He also studied Avastha and Pelvi in secondary school and at the University of Mumbai, Bombay. He has won essay awards and prizes from the K.R. Kama Oriental Institute and other institutions since 1956, and Avastha Pelvi scholarships in college. He has lectured widely and has authored numerous papers on religion and psychology. He obtained a master's in psychology from the North Carolina State University, and then a doctorate in psychology from Indiana Northern University. After working as a psychologist at the University of North Carolina in private industry and for the state of Illinois, he was engaged in full-time solo private practice as a clinical and management psychologist in Illinois. He's also affiliated with several hospitals and is listed in several who's who lists. Dasturji Kersey Antia has lectured and written on the subject of Zoroastrianism in India and the United States, both live and on radio and television, and has made numerous video courses on Zoroastrianism. He has studied the Gathas on his own for many years, utilizing at first the translations of Ervad Sahib Kanga, then Mills and Tara Porbala, and now relies primarily on Dr. Insler's translations. I'd also like to add that he has made several recordings of the prayers which have helped me and probably many others over the times. With that sentiment, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a very warm Zartoshti welcome to this outstanding Zartoshti with a scholarly repute whose amazing grace has blessed our community in so many ways. Our very own High Priest of Chicago, Dasturji Sahib Dr. Kersey Antia. Over to you, Dasturji.
Thank you, Karishma, for your kind words. I will start my little sermon now, but I want to thank everyone listening. As you know, Yenge Hatam is one of the three most important prayers of Zoroastrianism. And when I translate it in a minute, word by word, you would know why it is so important. The meaning is God knows all the living beings, Hatam. God knows all the Hatam who are praiseworthy and good by following Asha. We venerate them, men as well as women. The most important thing that strikes me as a person here is the word Taoscha, which refers only to women. In no language I found a separate word denoting women. And I didn't know that the Parsis had invented a word called Tani for denoting women until my Gujarati secretary told me when I was 26 years old that there is no such word as Tani. But the Parsis, because of their cultural heritage, had invented that word. And I would emphasize how important any brotherhood is if it includes both men and women. Another comment that I have to make is Enge Hatam really is a later avestion of the older Gothic verse, which is at the end. It comes at the end of the Gathas. And to me, it suggests that that phrase, that verse contains the very gist of the Gathas. And later, if I have time, I will sing that verse. It's very beautiful, but I will translate that. There are three things that stands out in that Gothic verse, which is at the end of the Yasna 51. First is it it not only praises all those who are born Hatam now. Hatam means Hayat in Gujarati, but also will be born in future. And also it names everyone who is really praiseworthy. And that tradition is maintained in our Jashan and all other African ceremonies where we say Name Nish, we name the person that we are praying for. So this is the origin of that. And finally, it exhausts us so beautifully by saying Pairi Jasai, which is translated in the later composition of Yenge Hatam as Yazamaide, but actually it says we've encircled all these people very lovingly. Pairi Jasai. Again, what could better establish brotherhood and fellowship than what Yenge Hatam says, by including all the people who are Hatam and they will be all born in future, whether they are men or women, and by naming them one by one. Women are very important. Hashem and Yatha talks about following the Ashar and being righteous. And then Yatha Video tells us about helping the poor and having the Vahumana, good mind. But Engehat establishes also the equality. As Mary Boyce has emphasized, the credit for the birth of our religion belongs to a woman, Queen Hawaii, who first accepted Zarathustra and then prevailed over King Vistashva to accept it. The credit also for the first successful Persian Empire, also the greatest Persian Empire, goes to women who shoots all the soldiers of King Cyrus who were first defeated, and they shamed them into going back and fighting back with the enemy. And finally, Cyrus won. So women have a very, very important place. I have written about that a whole chapter, which is inclusive of all the materials I could find, and that's in my book, Acceptance in Zoroastrianism. It's about equality of men and women. This makes the brotherhood and fellowship all inclusive. The word for fellowship in Yasna 40 is Hakaman. I think the word Anjaman and Anjuman after that comes from that. And we always believe in fellowship. So let us put it all in practice as much as we can. May it happen as I pray. Yatane angahat ata avo vasat. Amen.
Thank you very, very much, Dasturji Sahib, Kersey, Antia. Please, would you pray the Yange Hatam for us as well? And the Gathic verse that you would have liked to share with us.
Sure.
And at this moment,
Yenge hatam. Sure. Yenge hatam hate yasne paiti vango. Mazdavo auro veta. Ashata cha. Yangam cha. Dascha. Tauscha. Yeza maide. Now Gothic one. Yeya moi. Ashata cha. Vahishtem yasne paiti. Veda mazdavo ahuro yoi angarecha and teacher tayazai kaishna menish pericha jasai vanta. Pericha jasai vanta. Let us encircle each other with love and respect. Thank you.
thank you very much, Dasturji Sahib, Kersey, Antia. I would
You're
also like to
welcome.
extend our gratitude to Mrs. Dilshad Antia, Auntie Dilshad, for all her assistance and her graciousness, and also to their son, Mazda Antia, for assisting them with all the technology required to bring them to us.
I
in this.
also want to thank them because without them, I wouldn't have been able to do this.
What about a second?
Thank
Thank you very much. Thank you all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is also a very special priest. Ardavan Solan is from Pakistan. We express our gratitude to him and his parents, auntie and uncle, for their kindness in his presence here today. Our featured youth Mobed speaker, whom I'm about to introduce, is very proud of his priestly heritage. As he says in his words, my full name is Ardavan Bamanji, Ervad Beramji, Ervad Kavasji, Solan. He's just turned 19. Hanji? And hails from the Navsari Brotherhood of Priestly Mobeds, known as the Baghriyas. Solaina being the actual identity of our clan until my grandfather changed or shortened it to Solan to sound more appealing to the British when he was working under them. Ervad Ardavan Solan received his education from the Montessori till O levels at the Veer Baiji Sopariwala Parsi High School, an alma mater which celebrated 175 years since its inception in 2020. And he recently finished his A-levels from Alpha College in Karachi. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important to note that the BVS Parsi High School in Karachi is rated among the top boys' schools in Pakistan. Bravo to you, Arvad Sahib. As a youth, he has mostly served our Zartoshi community as a mobed since his initiation in 2012 at the age of 10. And he includes performing benedictions at his school for 4 years and its yearly jashans, and also as an active participant in helping out at the Gari Kata Agyari, situated in Pakita Chowk, whenever needed, as well as taking part in the celebrations for the Lahore Dare Meher's 125th year anniversary Jashan as a Jyoti, leading mobed. In spite of being a student, he still makes time to reach out to help relieve the overburdened full-time mobed sahibs during the muqtads each year. Thank you very much. And during the previous year's dry spell and heat waves, when the rising death toll of our Zoroastrians had reached an all-time high. Bravo to you, dear Ardavan Sahib, for your valuable, selfless service. He's currently pursuing law and aspires to be a qualified barrister at law. In addition to that, his future aspirations include continuing to serve our Zartushti community by gaining knowledge and wisdom that our enlightened Prophet Zarathustra encourages one to acquire, and to perhaps one day find answers to the unending questions regarding what we hold to be sacred. With that, may I please welcome Arvad Sahib Ardavan Solan, so that the light and righteousness of Asha forever guide us. Arvad Sahib, our very own Ardavan Solan, our young youth mobed from Pakistan.
Thank you, Karishma Ji, for those kind words. I would also like to thank Mir Uncle for giving me this opportunity to come before all of you and speak for this dais. Well, if starting my discussion for today, if we see before cooperation and fellowship Zarathustra's doctrine, we first need to dwell on the scriptures that express these values, and before we can explore the philosophy behind such devotional expressions, we must first realize their meaning. As Arvad Sahib Kersey uncle described before me the meaning, regardless of that, the message being one of the best examples of Zarathustra's teachings for his followers, a universal mantra, which is, if followed unanimously and righteously, will naturally lead to fellowship and cooperation all among us who claim to call ourselves Mazdi Asli Zarathustris, not Parsis, not Iranis, not Shahenshahis, nor Kadmis, or Faslis, just simple Zarathustris. This sense of self and belonging towards your fellow Zarathustris and to the one above all, Tadar or Ramazda, can only come through deep understanding and realizations of what these sacred scriptures try to tell us. A prayer such as this is frequent in most of our religious ceremonies, the Jashans, the Afringans, and so on. The Afringans dedicated to Dadar or Ramazda, Fatiman Bairam Yazid, the Archangel Sarosh Yazid, protector of man, all end with the same invocation of Yengehata. What we have to practice in our everyday lives and the mission we have to accomplish here in our material world, as well as the fact that we are being judged for our deeds by our Creator and will be rewarded for them accordingly. A simple stanza of 16 words, even shorter than the Aunavario prayer, but arguably just as essential, bringing together all manner of believers, regardless of age, gender, color, ethnicity, creed, and or belonging, in manner of following a simple teaching, believing and adoring the same Messiah, eventually creates this sense of togetherness, the state of mirroring each other's lives to the point that it signifies cooperation and fellowship, which is missing these days from our community. As a wise man once said, no reasonable human being can stand in the face of injustice and not acknowledge it. Which brings me to the next section of the discussion. The aforementioned prayers of Jehangir Hatam, which occur frequently in our jashans and other ceremonies or rituals, is recited after a hushed phrase, spoken and then followed by a peculiar handshake, which ensues between two respective morbids performing the jashan ceremony. Another mantra, only uttered in a suppressed tone, should be the cornerstone of our community. A couple of words which signify unity, fellowship, brotherhood, like no other words can. The morbids overlap their hands over each other and recite Hama Zor Hama Shobed, united in flesh and in spirit, displaying a model for all of us and our generations to follow. Whether we want to help someone in need, impart knowledge, you must at first be one with your mind, soul, and body. This correspondingly brings two fellow-minded believers of Asha together. The similarity in goals and belief brings about similarity in action, which in turn creates like-mindedness of character and personality. Going further ahead, since we are often told the best consciousness or that of eternal bliss can be achieved when the person is at oneness with his mind, soul, and body. It is said that Asha exists within all of us. It resonates through our BaHumana, our good mind. When we act upon it, it personifies in our deeds the ideal state of a community that Zarathustra had dreamed of. If I give some examples, there were some legendary figures who personified this more than anyone that we've ever come across. Perhaps those who accepted and understood Zarathustra's doctrine more than just a divine message or from the creator, more than just daily dips to be said regularly, those who were so in oneness with their minds and spiritual being that they inculcated these messages into their practices, so much so that they accomplished unimaginable feats today that seem just unimaginable to replicate. While our Zoroastrian customs are filled with such mystics and men of God who have said to have been more performed their deeds, like walking away after having molten lava poured over their chest, to those who were chosen as saviors who vanquished a great evil from the land, and said to have never left the material realm. From those who traveled to heaven and hell and back within 7 days, to those who could hold fire in their bare hands. There are a couple of names that stand out amongst them, although both that I'm about to mention right now are polar opposites in their approach to Zoroastrianism, but both following the same teachings of the same prophet of the same religion. The first, a commander of paranormal forces and the summoner of divine beings, Dasturji Mahar Meherchirana, whose tales are legend, a soul so at par with himself and the Lord, perhaps the wielder of magic hidden in the scriptures, long forgotten, which he proved by summoning angels in front of the Mughal Emperor Akbar, who ruled at the time. Someone who had questioned Dasturji's hold over these mystical beings and the Persian religion, which has prevailed for such a long time. He harnessed the powers of the Magi, his predecessors, that the Greek historians. Someone who did performs like things and feats which today seem like magic, hence the name of Magi. Dasturji Meherchirana had also once negated the effects of a spell put on a humongous silver dish levitated in the sky to replicate or to basically resonate or reflect the beams of the moon shining over them as to look like another moon up in the sky. This was done by Akbar's most fierce black magic practitioners, but Dasturji did this through his clear devotion, through his unwavering faith in the potential of his scriptures. The second one may be more synonymous with most of you, since he's most commonly concerned with the foundation of the Anjuman Swaram of Bombay, the legend of Dasturji Jamshed Ervat Sorabji Kukadaru, an everlasting one, most famously known for turning a brick of ordinary stone into a bar of pure gold within one night's time. He selflessly donated it to the construction of the Adashvaram. Some say he had similar powers as the one mentioned before, but I think Dasturji Kukadaru Sahib's method may be more rooted in science than in mysticism. That Dasturji had unlocked the secrets and the formulae to the lost pseudoscience of alchemy. Could it have been that such a greater understanding and execution of our sacred doctrines by these legends could lead to them performing such supernatural feats? Perhaps the art of mysticism may have been lost to time and preserved securely in the words we use to communicate with the divine so often and so regularly today. For prayers could be anything you want them to be, from mere gibberish words that carry no meaning in today's world, hence should be made redundant as the language they were written, to devotional hymns and soothing psalms which could be used to achieve inner peace or even eternal bliss in the long run. But perhaps maybe they could be more than that. They may be archaic messages, secrets left behind by those technologists and the divine souls forgotten through time, now only being remembered as magicians or even myths, or by those people who were even skeptical of even their existence. Maybe one day someone wise enough to not only understand their meaning, but the philosophy behind the meaning could realize that this whole universe or multiverse of knowledge that we call our scriptures can prove that these realms of magicians and this world of technologists aren't so far apart after all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ardavan Solan, for your very precious message. We will now move on to our next speaker, a very young and dynamic lady from Canada, Tanya Hoshi. This dynamic and exuberant Zarathushtri youth I'm about to introduce is a multifaceted young lady from Canada who has served as a proud ambassador of the Zoroastrian Return to Roots program. She has served as a senior producer at Shopify, the world's leading global commerce company, and she writes, casts, directs, and produces digital content. Her projects encompass an array of content, mediums, genres, formats, including international advertisements and digital originals, all spotlighting facets of a long entrepreneurial journey. Tanya Hoshi is a Pakistani-Canadian filmmaker, now based in Toronto, who has built a portfolio of award-winning narrative web series and documentary films. For the past 7 years, Tanya has focused her career path towards strategic storytelling, landing her a coveted role as a senior producer at Shopify, and was most recently promoted as the company's first creative and storytelling lead. At Shopify, Tanya's productions have been viewed globally by millions of aspiring entrepreneurs, broadcast on NBC, and has won a Telly Award. While Tanya is determined to pursue creativity outside of the corporate world, she has additionally produced independent projects by securing over $1 million in financing for her films over the years. Tanya's films have been acquired by the likes of CNN, West, Jet, Alaska Airlines, and TIFF, to name just a few. She's also an active mentor, currently mentoring 2 aspiring filmmakers to get their footing on the competitive film industry. When she isn't making films, Tanya enjoys volunteering her time for the Zoroastrian community. Since 2018, she has been the lead coordinator for the Zoroastrian Return to Roots program, a 2-week trip to India, which brings together young Zoroastrians from around the globe to learn more about their religion, history, and Parsi culture. She was also selected to be a participant in the world first Zoroastrian Youth Leaders Forum in the United Kingdom, for which she produced a video showcasing the impact the forum had on its attendees. Tanya has produced several videos about the Zoroastrian community, with her most popular video to date featuring Mobadyar Mashad Khosraviani. All her Zoroastrian-related videos can be seen on her YouTube channel. In 2020, Tanya Hoshi was honored to be appointed as the first Chief Social Media Officer for Fazana, the largest body of Zoroastrians in North America. She was selected for this role by the Fazana president, Mr. Arzan Samwadia, due to her ability to connect with and influence both the younger and the older Zoroastrian generations. Her work to date has allowed Fazana to increase its followers and engagement online by 300%. As a filmmaker, Tanya enjoys telling stories about her Zoroastrian community and volunteers her spare time to produce and edit films about them. She has felt closer to her Zoroastrian community over the past few years by dedicating her time to attend events, speaking at congresses, and donating fundraising efforts. Her hope is to empower young Zoroastrians to take on more leadership positions in their own religious communities, and that older generations help pass the baton to ensure younger generations can lead the path forward. On top of that, Tanya has been very gracious in helping us promote BaHumata programs on various social media platforms, for which we are truly grateful for her kindness. With that attitude of gratitude, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a very warm Zartoshi welcome to this passionate and compassionate young lady from Canada, our very own Tanya Hoshi. Over to you, Tanya.
That's such a generous intro. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Karishma, and thank you, Meher Uncle, for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here and to speak with you all. And thank you, everybody, for being here in the first place and just giving us your time today. When I was thinking about what to say in the 5 minutes that I have, I realized that, some people are enlightened by our scriptures, by our prayers. And then I think some people first get enlightened by experience in the community. And then afterwards, they can be motivated to be enlightened by our scriptures. So I want to kind of share that latter, which is I want to show you kind of how I was personally enlightened by experience so that I can actually go through the journey of reading our scriptures and learning more about it. So I'll start by saying that half of the intro, the very generous intro actually just given, would absolutely not exist if it wasn't for Zoroastrians in our community who embody the values of cooperation and fellowship. Whether it's organizations like Fazana, events like our congresses, or initiatives such as BaHumata today, it's always my fellow Zoroastrians who present me with the opportunities to get involved and create impact. And I'd love to share in the short time we have together why it's so important that we continue to do this, especially for our young Zoroastrians. So the story begins when I was 13 years old. I graduated from religion classes, and I loved my religion classes. But shortly afterwards, which happens to a lot of us, especially when we're young, I got very busy with school. I got very busy with my career. And unfortunately, I just slowly started becoming a bit more disconnected with my Zoroastrian community. And I think it's because I just personally didn't feel like I had anything of value to provide. And very quickly, I became very disengaged altogether. And this happened for more than a decade. And it wasn't until 2018, when I was invited to the world's first Zoroastrian Youth Leaders Forum in the UK, that I finally felt motivated to finally get involved again in the Zoroastrian community. So this one-week forum gathered young Zoroastrians from around the world to discuss issues in our community that concerned us the most. And after many discussions, we discovered that the root of a lot of our community problems was youth disenfranchisement. And by this, I refer to many of our youth feeling disconnected from their faith and community, feeling like perhaps they're not welcome or not safe to show up as themselves, or feeling like they have nothing to contribute. And this happens across the globe, not just in the diaspora. So this Youth Leaders Forum wasn't about us telling people what to do, but about listening to one another to learn what was needed. The act of listening is such an integral part of cooperation because it allows us to hear each other out, be curious, and show others we acknowledge them. And it's something we're all doing right now, and I really appreciate that. By doing this, we're able to discover issues and potential solutions that we otherwise may not have discovered on our own individually. We were able to give the participants something to work towards collectively, giving us all a sense of purpose within the larger scope of our community, and it gave us a network of support. One thing that I'm confident will help us move forward as a community is by dedicating more of our energy towards listening to simply what other Zoroastrians need. I've noticed that many religious communities, including our own, sometimes dedicate too much of their time and energy creating negative vibrations, causing many people, especially young followers, to live a repressed life. Now, a repressed soul cannot manifest positivity and fellowship. How can we expect our community to work collectively if we dedicate our energy trying to villainize others simply for who they are or what they wear, for who they marry, for things they have no control over, like their sexuality, their gender, or the family they're born into? Why are we so focused on telling people what we think is right? We should commit instead to being curious and open-minded, instead of just committing to being right. Our need to be right is just our egos keeping us from growing as human beings and embracing change. Curiosity is an integral part of fellowship because it makes us open to learning new lessons and allowing others to help us. So I encourage everyone today, and myself included, always to choose personal growth over rigidness. And curiosity helps with this. So let's put down our egos and listen to one another, especially those who may have differing viewpoints and life experiences than you. So to continue the story, after I left the youth forum, I soon began to grow my Zoroastrian network. And for the first time, I began to feel more ingrained in our community. I was offered incredible opportunities to volunteer my time, which helped me feel a sense of purpose to stay connected in the first place. Whether it's supporting the Zoroastrian Return to Roots trip or running Fazana social media, I can now see how much our community gains when just one person feels supported and included. A person who feels appreciated will always do more than what's expected of them. I truly believe this. And I see this in our youth leaders across the globe who run our youth associations. I see this in our religious scholars who dedicate their energy to teaching us more about our religion through online classes. I see this through individual Zoroastrians who volunteer their spare time to create valuable initiatives for their community, such as scholarships, congresses, and even programs for our mobeds. It's important for us to take the time to acknowledge their efforts and celebrate their dedication. Now, the Youth Forum was just a short moment in time. It was just a week, but it was organized incredibly by Sanaya Master, a young New Zealander, and made possible due to the support of several other Zoroastrians, who I should call out Sarbanu Gifford, who kindly and generously lent us the Asha Center free of cost to host all the participants. Now, I want to make sure everyone knows, no one asked them to do this. They simply did it on their own accord because they knew it would be positively impactful. I find that so beautiful that when someone just does something because they know it's right, because they know it's a good thing, it's going to benefit others, not just themselves. And it's initiatives like this that we need to encourage and dedicate our energy to in order to support the healthy growth of our community and religion. My greatest request today is to ask our current community leaders, majority of whom are not young Zoroastrians, to create opportunities for the younger generation to become leaders in our community. And it goes without saying that we should be role models as well for the next generation. Building experience in cooperation and fellowship should begin at a young age, so we can embody these values as we grow up and create healthy environments for the next generation of Zoroastrians ourselves. And we all need help and support in some way. I think that's what makes us human in many, many ways. So let's not gatekeep these leadership roles and instead create opportunities to invite young people to be engaged and grow into leaders. And trust me, I know this, there's a lot that they know that we don't, and we could really use their help. I want to wrap up today by asking everyone here and anyone who's watching this later on, what is it that you're dedicating your time and energy to when it comes to our religion and community? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? And you can start small. You can volunteer for existing initiatives out there to support our religious community, or by donating money if you have that ability, Or if you're a Mobbit or you're a religious scholar, perhaps you can share your knowledge with the community so we can learn more about our prayers and our religion. Whatever it is you choose to do, please commit to yourselves to being open-minded and dedicate your time to actions that will positively benefit our community and encourage more people to get involved, especially our youth. Sometimes it just takes one person to influence another to get involved, like it did for me. And I want to end off by saying tomorrow's Zoroastrian legacy is all yours to build. And I'm so excited to see what everyone else does in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Thank you. Went straight from your heart to our hearts. Our next speaker today is an amazing humanitarian. He firmly believes that respecting religious differences while celebrating our common humanity is important. He has a long and distinguished tradition of promoting interfaith activity at local, national, and international levels. He has selflessly worked as a trustee and director at the Religions for Peace in the United Kingdom, as well as president of the World Conference of Religions for Peace. Mr. Jehangir Sarosh is an OBE. He was born in Indore, India, and came to the United Kingdom by road in 1952. He's also made that journey back home by road once. He served in the Royal Air Force before working in civil aviation industry. Having enjoyed the journey from India to UK by car so much, he decided to offer similar opportunities to other young people and ran a minibus service between India and the United Kingdom. Jehangir then started his own import-export business in 1968 and has served as the chairman of a group of companies. He has served as the interfaith representative of the Zoroastrian Trust Funds of Europe, the principal body of the Zoroastrian community in Europe, and for the World Zoroastrian Organization in the United Kingdom. He is the sitting trustee of the Erach and Roshan Sadri Foundation and is the patron of the Asha Center, which is committed to deliver transformative, holistic education designed to bring about lasting inner and social and environmental change in humanity. Jehangir has demonstrated a long-standing commitment to the promotion of interfaith understanding and activity in the United Kingdom and worldwide. He's an executive member of the Interfaith Network for UK, IFN, since 1994 until 2006, and has been the leading light in the establishment of the well-regarded local interfaith forum, the Watford Interfaith Association, which he chaired from 1975 until 84, and then again from 2003 to 2005. As the president of the World Conference on Religions for Peace, WCRP, the Europe Region Chapter, he served with utmost dedication, energy, and commitment from 1999 until his retirement in 2008. Before that, he was a member of the Executive Committee of the World Conference on Religions for Peace, which is the largest international coalition of representatives from the world's leading great religions dedicated to promoting peace. It creates interfaith partnerships to tackle some of the world's most severe challenges like war, poverty, and climate change. In this context, he has been active in such work in interfaith mediation in Kosovo and in Sri Lanka. Although he is officially retired, he remains active in international interfaith work as President Emeritus and works largely for people around the world, and he funds work himself personally. He has authored international published papers on a variety of subjects, including globalization, responsibility of religions, the role of media and religions, and is regularly invited to participate in religion regionally and in international meetings. He has quoted Krishnamurti, who said, "The highest form of human intelligence is to observe yourself without judgment." And Jehangir has lived his life on this philosophy while actively participating in the global mission to go beyond dialogue. And this has borne fruit in common action with communities of faith and the society at large. His valuable and humanitarian endeavors involve nuclear disarmament education, climate change, inner peace exploration, gender equity, and building a more righteous and equity-driven society. His personal vision is guided by the vision in the world in which religious communities cooperate effectively for peace by taking concrete, common action. He's also submitted a post titled Remembering in The Art of Living, a Practical Guide for Being Alive. The Art of Living book, which reads, "For me, it is an adventure through its everlasting nature. The acceptance of change enables me to be alive and enjoy the wonder and challenge of not knowing what is around the corner. Being alive also enables me to love what I am, where I am, and who I'm with. Sometimes I hope for more of what I have. Sometimes I hope for things to be different. But all this is in the mind. So by recognizing or seeing what the mind is doing to me, I can be miserable or happy. For me, the simple yet very powerful remembering is the art of happiness. And in this happiness is the art of living." He also firmly believes in Yasnaha 43.1, which says, "Happiness comes to those who make others happy." And his love for the philosophy of Asho Zarathustra and his passion to ensure that our community receives full recognition and the rightful place within society, just as every community ought. He has represented the community for the past 45 years on various national and international organizations. He's a family man with a beautiful wife, Irma, a very kind lady, and wonderful children and grandchildren. In 2011, Jehangir was conferred the OBE, the member of the most distinguished order of the British Empire, for services to interfaith relations in the UK. This is the highest recognition in this area, we believe. With that sentiment, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm Zartushti welcome to our revered community grandfather, whose heartwarming contribution of healing the planet one soul at a time is absolutely remarkable. Our very own Jehangir Sarosh from the United Kingdom. Over to you, Jehangir.
Thank you very much for my life story, more than my biodata. Thank you very much. I was hoping that you would offer a shorter introduction so that I could spend a little more than my allocated 7 minutes.
You may do so, of course, please, Jehangir.
Thank you. So let me begin by greeting you all and thanking Karishma and her team. I've been asked to speak on cooperation and fellowship. Could we have the slides? As you note, I've been given the remit of cooperation and fellowship for the greater good. I'll be focusing on the ethical aspects rather than religious concepts. Why are we here? I suggest to help bring about frashocality, the final renovation. In the Bible, Genesis 1:31 states, God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. Frashocality, the renovation, will be when all will be good again. I believe the reason we are here is precisely that. Next slide. We speak of good thoughts, words, and deeds, but what is good? Yasna 43:1 reads, Ushta mai amai ushta kamachi. Jala Mrolia translated this as only that which is good for anybody whatsoever can be good for one's own self. Note, anybody whatsoever is referring to all that has been created, not just mankind. Our greeting is Hamazor Hamashobad. May we all be united in strength and righteousness. But we are divided. We are not united. We are divided, fragmented internally and externally. The fragmentation arises in the mind. It separates and divides us. Therefore, it is the mind of man that needs to be changed. Changed to recognize the unity of humanity and the interdependence with all there is. For this, there is only one origin, one destiny, and one humanity. Division is the problem, not war, not fighting, not unhappiness, not poverty, for all these are caused by division. Division leads to separation, which is good for no one, not economically, politically, culturally, or socially. There's a lovely stanza in Song 17.6. Next slide. Sorry, can we go back to slide 7 or have I lost it? It reads, wrong is attractive and appears to have advantages, but it alienates one from oneself. It ends in woefulness and bad reputation. It destroys happiness for the wrongful. It defiles truths. With these, you shall be destroying your mental life. Sure, we know we are different. In fact, we are unique, but we take the differences and use them to divide us, not only from each other, but also within ourselves, from our inner self, from our inner light. This brings us to the fellowship in our heading of the talk. I prefer to speak of kinship rather than fellowship or fraternity. For kinship implies a relationship. The relationship is the one light which connects us all. We refer to each other as brothers and sisters. I think we ought to mean that. Can we have a total relationship with humanity and all there is? For without relationship, we are nothing. We can do nothing. With relationship, we are open to cooperation for global solidarity. Good cooperation requires understanding. And that understanding needs to be through love. Love is relationship, the basis of harmony and caring, leading to communion, the common union. Communion is the common union that creates empathy between each other while recognizing our interdependency. For example, when we stand in front of the light of the fire and pray or just look, there is a kind of connection, a communion, a common union, a wholeness, perfection, devotion, adoration. Then we are. When we are connected to that in our daily lives, then we are open for cooperation through collective consciousness.
It's 17 hours.
United with righteousness and with the wise one are the words in the Gatha song 17:3. Clearly, to move towards frugality, cooperation is vital. Before we can cooperate, we need to be free within ourselves. It is essential to offer equality to the other and have a relationship that is positive. Cooperation requires us to listen to the other and dialogue with the others, and an active engagement to change the mindset. This enables us to be united in righteousness. You may recognize that phrase. Let us now move from words to action. Our actions are based on our beliefs. Therefore, we need to question our individual belief and our communal beliefs. Are my beliefs good for the whole or just my community or my nation or my whatever? This requires all of us, whatever our faiths, whatever our beliefs, whatever our tradition, or even whatever our mission, we cooperate together to change the mindset. First step is to build trust through dialogue. Dialogue helps build bridges. Cooperation requires us to overcome our self-interest and cross over to the other side and meet the other. And to help with this, we need bridges. A bridge is a pathway that offers an opportunity to move from one side to the other and meet the other, to connect, hear, and understand, and eliminate the artificial division. Here it would be useful to keep in mind that women and youth are the present forces for change. Let us offer them joint leadership and share power with them. That is the way forward. However, a bridge is not enough. The renovation requires a spiritual content. For example, the non-violence of Mahatma Gandhi, the humility of Nelson Mandela, and the faith of Martin Luther King. But above all, the belief in the unity that is humanity. Gatha Song 17.5 reads, master the life which belongs to good mind. May you each win the other through righteousness. When we do that, then we have peace and good reigns, and we've arrived. Thank you. That was a prayer I had written. I didn't want to use it just now. Thank you very much, Jasdeep.
Thank you, Jehangir. Thank you very, very much indeed. As we move towards the end, may I request all of you who would like to share any experiences with the prayers, with cooperation and fellowship, to start filling the chat box. Also, please put in your questions to the specific speakers into the chat box. It's really important as we reflect upon what the speakers have said to us today. Dasturji, Kersey, Antia talked about Pairi Jasai. We encircle all people very lovingly. He talked about Yasnaha 40, where the word Hakmanem is mentioned, fellowship. Ardavan Solan talked about Dasturji Meherji Rana and Dasturji Koka Daru. Tanya Hoshi brought in the word listen. The root word in Avastha for listen is sru, hence Sarosh Yazad. And this was followed by the talk by Sarosh Jehangir, where he talked about frashokerati. It's very interesting. He also used the word fraternity. In Avastha, fra means to go forth. So fraternity, by logic, to me, containing the word fra is something that helps us go forward. Frashokarati does mean renovation, but if we look at Yasnaha 46.2, Asho Zarathustra also refers to Ahura Mazda. And he says, Rafedram Chagvayao Hyat, Fro Frayai Daidit, Akso Vangeo Shashaishtim Manango. What is the relationship I'm trying to draw? Today, is also Friendship Day. 30th July was celebrated as World Friendship Day. So frashokeriti, fraternity. I leave it to all of us to think for ourselves as we start filling the chat box. We'll take a moment to reflect on all these wonderful speakers and reflect upon Yasnaha 28.1, where Asho Zarathustra does guide us to please the soul of the universe.
Manius mazdau porvim, spentayau ashau vispen, shotna vangeus kratum manangau ya. Snevishage uscha urvane ayaya nemanga ostar.
So the word for friend in Avesta is Freya. So Asho Zarathustra talks to Ahura Mazda and says, as one friend to another, please teach me through righteousness. That was the meaning of that verse I gave you earlier. Let's now take all the questions as we express our gratitude to our wonderful, wonderful speakers and to Baba Meher for putting them together. Gratitude to Yazdi Tatra for supporting us. If you just raise your hands when you want to say something, you can read out your own comments and questions so that we can build this as a dialogue. Thank you, Tanya, for putting in Dr. Kersey Antia's book, the link. That is very valuable. Dasturji Sahib has spoken so beautifully today. Ervat Khushru Bagli has commended Ardavan Solan. If you raise your hand, then Yazdi can help you unmute Dasturji. Ardavan Sahib Khushru Bagli. We have Dil Nawaz, who says there is a dedicated and enthusiastic young man. It's on YouTube. We'll keep this for the share section. Dolly Dastur commends Tanya. Manik Bujwala, Dolly Adanti, why don't you unmute yourself? Manik Bujwala next. Read out your own comments. Farhad Cooper next. So if you just raise your hands, then Yazdi can unmute you. Then Homi Gandhi, Farhad Cooper, Manik Bujwala, please. Raise your digital hand, that helps Yazdi. Raise your digital hand, press the button. Dolly Dastur next, raising her hand, Yazdi.
I just wanted to thank Tanya for the wonderful expression which she gave, which is so appropriate at this time when the whole world is in a bit of a turmoil of different happenings, spiritual as well as physical, and her emphasis on the individuality of each person and the ability to express your own self is so appropriate. So thank you so much, Tanya, for bringing the attention of the community to the individuality of people, and individuality of our youth who are moving in one direction, and we should not be pushing them back to move in another direction. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dolly. And I mean, I should mention that Dolly runs our scholarship program. One of many incredible things she does, she also runs Fazana's journal. But like, that's like what I mean by like individuals taking that initiative. Like no one told Dolly she has to do this. She took it out of her own accord to run the scholarship program, which positively impacts so many young Zoroastrians. So thank you, Dolly, as well. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Mobadyar Manik Bujwala next, please, Yazdi.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for all the good speakers we had today. Basically, for Ardavan Solan, I wanted to congratulate him for sharing the his research and information with all of us. And basically, I had a question for him is whether there are any interfaith organizations in Pakistan. And if so, that I recommended, that he join one of these in order for non-Zoroastrians to be able to realize that we have a very ancient religion and, what are our beliefs. And for Tanya Hoshi, again, I congratulated her for a good presentation. And and I kind of was very happy to see that Tanya and Ardavan Solan, young people like that, are taking an interest in our religion and in our community. And for Jehangir Sarosh, I also was very happy to see that he's so active in interfaith organizations, because that is one avenue by which we can make people aware of our great religion. Thank you.
Thank you, Manik Uncle, for the praise. It's actually I would like to correct you. It's Ardavan Solan. The last name is Solan. So thank you for the. No, there is no interfaith such an organization in Pakistan. We ourselves been living here as a minority, but they do respect us. They do know who we are. Our identity is out in the open. But such as right now, there is no certain initiative to go to teach our religion and our values to non-Zoroastrians. There have been quite a lot of seminars and speakers, for example, Pujasthi Mistry coming over and giving speeches at KPI, the institution, Karachi. But so far, no, not concerning non-Zoroastrians, there have been no such communities or the organization that you're talking about. But that is a really good idea that you have. So thank you for the suggestions.
Thank you, Ardavan Solan. Basically, from my experience being with interfaith organizations for many, many years, I have noticed that many people don't know that there is a religion called Zoroastrian.
Right.
And if they know, they will say, oh, we thought, that they were all extinct, or something. So it's very important that, more and more of us do participate in interfaith events and organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you very much for that dialogue. Very precious.
Jehangir, you wanted to say something?
Just to mention that there is a Religions for Peace chapter in Pakistan, which is a multi-faith organization.
Jehangir.
Oh, Jehangir.
Just very briefly to inform you, there is more than one interfaith body in Pakistan. Some of them are led by the Muslim community themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Yazdi. Thank you, Jehangir, Ardavan, and Manik Bujwala. Khushru Mirza, if you're able to raise your hand, Rohinton and Roshan Rivetna. In the meantime, while they are coming up to share, this is also the time coming up to the Muqtads. So we have a fellowship in the Zarathushti Daina with those who have been and those who are yet to come. So it's a fellowship of continuum. So if anybody would like to share anything on the Muqtads that are coming up, please feel free to do so. Khushru Mirza, over to you. May we take Rohinton and Roshan Rivetna until then, please, since they've unmuted. Thank you so much.
Well, Karishma, thank you for bringing all these interesting people together. Really inspiring, especially to see the young people. And Tanya and Ardavan Solan, their passion and their commitment And we hope that you can spread your passion to the next generation, Tanya and Ardavan Solan. And also nice to see the older generation, Kersey, Antia, whom we respect very highly in Chicago, and Jehangir Sarosh, who has done so much work in the interfaith arena. We really enjoy that you bring all these people together, Karishma. Thank you.
My gratitude to Mr. Meher Amalsad for spending several tens of hours to achieve this togetherness. Thank you. And to you for all your work over the so many decades. Ervat Khushru Mirza, over to you.
Thank you, Karishma. I just wanted to say how proud we feel of the young people when they take part in these things. Otherwise, it's always the same old generations that participate in these very enlightening talks. When we hear their views, it makes us think much beyond ourselves. And I feel very proud that two of them have taken part today. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There is a comment from Ardavan. Please go ahead. There is a comment from Nilufer. What is the righteousness of religion? What is the asha of religion? Nilufer, if you're still here with us, please raise your hand. What is the righteousness of faith? Dasturji Sahib, Kersey, Antia, may I please bring you in on this? Dilshad Auntie, would you unmute Dasturji Sahib, please? What is the asha of religion, the righteousness of religion? And then Jehangir, if I may bring you in, then Tanya, you, and if Ardavan also would like to come in.
Asha is a very, very broad and very unique concept where it comes from the Vedic Ruta. It means the cosmic law that governs the whole world. There is nothing left in that concept. It's the comprehensive, one fundamental law around which the whole universe moves. And everything we do in a right way, which will bring the renovation, prosperity, ultimately. That's the goal of Asha. I can go on, but if there is any further question, I'll be glad to address that. But I will give it to the other young ones too, to listen to their views too. Thank you.
Thank you, Dasturji Sahib. After the young ones finish, I'd request you to come in and tie it all together if you would like to. And then before we finish, a hambandagi, please.
Okay.
May I request, thank you. May I request Ardavan to take over?
Yes, yes, Karishma, I would love to take that question. That is a very interesting one. And that Asha is a very fundamental concept of our religion. It's the word itself means order, and the cosmic entity of order. It is nothing physical. It's just supernatural. It's the opposite of Asha is Duruj. When Zarathustra talks about Asha, he means that the order in which the universe can move on without two things clashing with one another. We see that, let's go on to astronomy, like for example, all the stars and sun, and the planets revolve around the sun without ever, Neptune, and there is a time when Neptune and Uranus, they are about to clash, but they don't. They just pass by each other. That's the idea, or how the universe moves on, how the universe articulates itself. Further on, the Asha and righteousness are two correlated ideas. When we say righteousness, It doesn't mean that to the point when Herodotus, at that point, the Greek historian, used to say that the Zoroastrians teach their sons and daughters, mostly the son, three things: how to ride a horse, how to operate a bow and arrow and fight, and the third thing is to speak the truth. This concept of righteousness of Asha doesn't literally mean not falsifying things, not falsifying the person. When I say that today I had a cup of coffee, in fact I had 2 cups of coffee, it doesn't mean that that conflicts Asha. Asha is or righteousness. The path of righteousness literally means to, as I said before, to look up to injustice or anything happening wrong in the society and thinking about it, realizing, acknowledging it, and then toiling into it and going forward and trying to correct that issue that you see, that you acknowledge. That is what Zarathustra says in his sermons. It is a very subjective thing. For everyone, you can acknowledge Asha, or righteousness for your own self. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arvad. Tanya, please, may I hand over to you for your share?
I was going to say Ardavan Solan just said it beautifully, that it is subjective. And I think you just gave the perfect definition, so I don't really need to add to that. Like subjectively for me, I'm like, everyone has their own path of Asha. Everyone has their own like path that they take of righteousness. I think everyone has their own experience of it, but I hope that when people do go through that path, they do it with an open mind and they do it with like positive intent. That's what I would hope for. And then honestly, the only last thing I need to add is like, if you haven't, I do recommend you read Dr. Antia's paper on the argument for the acceptance in Zoroastrianism. It's a really, really good paper. I have linked it, I'll link it again. If everyone just takes the time to read it, I think it makes some really, really good, it's a really good discussion overall. And there's a lot of things I didn't know that I learned from it as well.
Thank you, Tanya. Jehangir, may I call upon you to share your wisdom, please?
To me, first of all, righteousness is action. That sums up, keeping in mind that what is right is not always good. So our concept of goodness is more important than what is right. And as someone just mentioned, the concept of order, I think order is vital because the important thing is, or as someone once said to me, that sin is excess. Too much of wealth, too poverty, too much of anything compared to the other. The excess is the sin. And someone again translated for me saying that the original meaning of sin is to miss the target. And our target, missing the target is what is good, doing what is good. So it is this comparative balance of order in maintaining the centrifugal and the centripetal forces so that things are in balance. Because when you look at the current climate situation, things are not in balance and they need to be brought back into balance. That to me is the ultimate Asha.
Beautifully said. Thank you for that wisdom, Jehangir. Thank you also for guiding me as I started on the journey of looking at nature and Zarathustra's messages. I would like to now invite Mabed Sahib Darayash Katrak, who also gave a very beautiful message on the Muktads on Friday. He's asked, may I share something on the Muktads? Yes, please, Mabed Sahib. Do go ahead.
Yazan and Beram Yazat Panavad. Thank you, Dr. Karishma. You are doing an excellent job. And thank you for giving me an opportunity. Well, Doctor, I am not aware of whether the Muktads are elsewhere observed in the other part of the country, except that my friend Edward Zari Bandara is doing and observing it at California. But what I want to convey community is that from 6th of August, our Shenshahi Muktaj will commence. For benefit of those who would like to know that our Parsi community is divided into 3 sections. One must be wondering that just now, what a fortnight ago, there was a Kadmi, about a month ago, there was a Kadmi Muktaj. Now, what are these again Muktaj? Navroz, Jamshedji Navroz time, there were also Muktaj. I mean, the young generation, forgive me, the senior citizens who must be aware of this. This is not for those who are aware, but for the young generation who is not aware of, that which Muktas they should follow the Fasli Muktas, whether it's for the Kadmi Muktas, or they should follow the Shanshahi Muktas, which will commence from the 6th. Well, as I said, we are divided into 3 sections. And whichever section you have taken a birth in, where it in if it is in Shanshahi section, then you have to follow the Muktas which fall during the Shanshahi Muktas time. Like Kadmi Muktas, and likewise the Fasli Muktas. Now, what bothers me, again, this is for the young generation, that around this time, the talking point is how many, years the Mukshat should be observed. Now, I'm sure the people who are present over here, familiar with the festival of Muktats, must be really wondering that for how many, years one should observe the Muktats. For those who are unfamiliar, the festival of Muktats, our human body is of, human being. Every human being has a body which is of flesh and bones. It has a soul which is encased in the human body, and a farvashi which guides the soul. Soul is responsible for all the action that human being takes. Farvashi guides, and these 10 days will commence from the Ashtadroj of the last month of the Zoroastrian calendar year, that is the Aspandad, and followed by the 5 Muktar days, total amounting to 10 days. These 10 days are called Muktar days or holy days or special days for the Fravashis, who is, as I said, the guardian angel of our human being, and it guides the soul. Now, this prayer which we perform is for, in honor of these Fravashis. Though Fravashis and soul both come down. Now, the last thing I will not be taking more time, I want to convey is that this is not, the Darius Katra who is saying it, but this is mentioned in our scriptures. And I will also quote in which it is mentioned in Farvarin Yast that our, this Fravashi of death descend on this earth during this 10 days time with a desire that who will, love them, who will worship them, who will pray for them, who will take their name individually, and who will welcome them in their respective houses. These are the desires of the Fravashi, and they come every year. There is a word, there are words, in the Farvarin years, thus Pairi Shafno, meaning 10 nights. Now, these Fravashis, they come every year. Mark my word, every year they come around this time for 10 days. And after 10 days, we give them the sendos, what we call them. When this is clearly mentioned, in the scriptures, that they come for 10 days every year, our moral duty is to, welcome them every year, observe Muktas every year, and remember, what is Muktas? What we talk about for observing Muktas, it is, in other words, remembering our Fravashi of dead. And my reply to those who want to know how many, years they must observe Muktas, simple reply is, it is written in the scriptures, you should observe it as long as you are alive in this physical world. Jazdan Panabad, Beram Jazat Panabad, Der Jawshadbad.
Thank you very much, Mobed Sahib Darayesh Katrak. We will now hand over, since there are no more further questions other than a thank you from Ervad Mirza, to Dasturji, Kersey, Antia for a final hambandagi. And in the light of the Airyama Ishyo prayer, which is another one of our free mantras and very powerful mantras, together with the verses from our earlier scriptures, like in the Hoshbam, we say for the prosperity of the entire righteous creation. We say Vispao, Fradatai, Vispao Ashono Stoish. So again, we're using the word Fradatai, for the prosperity and going forward of the entire righteous creation. I'll hand over to Dasturji, Kersey, Antia. With much gratitude to you, Sahib.
Humatanam, Huktanam, Vavasanam, Yadacha, Anyadacha, Verezimananamcha, Va Verezimananamcha, Ebizare Taro, Nene Staro, Yetana Vahunam Mahi. We belong to that circle of Vahumana, good mind. By doing all the good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, whether now or in future, and we worship all the good thoughts and good deeds, whether done now or in the past, because we are an assembly, an anjuman of goodness, all true. God bless.
Thank you, Dasturji, Kersey, Antia. Please, everyone, join us on the 22nd of August at the same time as today for a very special Kordad Sal BaHumata session, where we will give gratitude to Asho Zarathustra, and children from our other part all over the world will express from their heart what Asho Zarathustra means to them individually. After that, of course, we will have our normal BaHumata first Sunday of the month session in September. Hamajor Hama Ashobad. Thank you all for being with us today. Thank you, Yazdi Tantraji, for supporting us, and Mr. Meher Amal Saad for putting all the speakers together.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.